What's up, guys and gals of the movement world? It's Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi, coming to you once again on behalf of Football Beyond the Stats and our movement play of the week this week for week 14 of the 2024 National Football League season. However, as I mentioned in the blog post, in week 14, we are taking a little detour, just like we did in week 4 when we investigated Ryan Williams of the Alabama Crimson Tide. This week, in week 14, for the first time ever, we're going to get into the Heisman hopefuls. And in particular, we're going to spend time looking at the movement skills, the adaptability, the dexterity of the game's best at the college level, playing on Saturdays. So, two main Heisman hopefuls. Obviously, everybody knows that. Everyone is well aware of that. And we're going to get into their movement skills today to let you guys be the deciding factor as to who is deserving of the Heisman, who is truly the best player in college football. But we're going to investigate it from a movement skill standpoint. So, who is the best, most skillful problem solver playing on Saturdays? So, when we look at this gentleman, Travis Hunter, number 12 of the University of Colorado um, football team here, two-way player playing at the highest of levels. Now, he is redefining in my mind as to what we thought was really truly possible at the highest of levels in college football. The crazy thing is, and I think about we're about to see, I believe that Travis Hunter has the capabilities of playing two ways, both ways on Sundays, just like he did on Saturdays. So just like he redefined what was possible on college football Saturdays, I believe he actually has the capability of doing that exact same thing on Sundays. Now, we wouldn't necessarily expect him to be the highest of levels per se, at each one of those respective positions. But what we're finding is a true, real playmaker. Like following suit with his college football coach of Deion Sanders, Hall of Famer, we're seeing an abundance within his movement skill set. We see an authenticity of the way that he shines with this form of life. And ultimately, this channels his adaptability. I'm actually surprised that Prime didn't have him being Travis Hunter, returning kicks and returning punts, because that's about what we would expect to see from this type of guy. Just let him be on a football field between the white lines and inside the numbers, outside of the numbers. Doesn't really matter where he is and how he's getting a ball in his hands. He's just going to make plays. He's the real definition of game speed. And that allows him to solve problems across the field no matter what he's being asked to do. So when we think about dexterity, the ability to solve any emerging movement problem in any situation, in any condition, Travis Hunter is sort of the epitome in college football of that. Now, before we get into the video, and we're just going to let the video play through, and I'm just going to kind of speak over it, maybe highlight some things that I'm seeing to allow me to make the statement that I just did in regards to being the epitome of dexterity on a college football Saturday. Let's also forget that when he's being asked to play both ways, he's not taking much time off at all. In fact, if I'm looking at my stats and my numbers here, on average, 116 snaps per game. That's over 80% of the plays from scrimmage for Colorado this season. Like, I don't think people understand to play that amount of reps and then to think about expressing movement skill across situations and across conditions. Conditions isn't just environmental conditions, but conditions can be fatigue and what might one might be going through in one game of that many snaps, let alone 12 games of that many snaps. Like you just think about that, and then you think about the productivity that follows with 1,100 plus yards receiving, the tackling, the interceptions, the big plays at the biggest of moments across situations and conditions. How can you have anything more across situations when the guy is playing both ways? How can you have solving more emergent movement problems than when a guy is playing both ways? You never really know what you're going to get. And the moment you come off the field, you get a breather, you get a drink, and you're right back on it. This two-way type of playing at this level just doesn't happen. But let's get into why it is that I feel as though we might see it happen. We might see it happen on Sundays for Travis Hunter. So it's not going to be our normal video in the way that we would. We're just going to watch this college football on Fox highlight video and just look at some of the things that we might see from him, and then skip back to it and see what we can find here as we'll kind of work through this right off the bat. And hopefully you guys aren't having too many glitches. What you find, and we're probably going to see some of these replays over and over and over again. What we find from him right off the bat is an attunement, but a greater perceptual awareness. Like, I have no doubts that Travis Hunter, no matter what sport it is that he would be playing, would actually probably be able to excel at it. Now, we typically talk about attunement and we think about sensitivity to specifying information about a problem. But what I really want to look at here is this general perceptual awareness. He's always coupling his movement behaviors, adapting them, adjusting them on the fly based on the information he's picking up. But because he's got such a diverse experience of that which what he's facing and finding in the problems that he's solving, he isn't really overly sensitive to bits of specifying information per se, in the way we might find with an Ashton Genty, who we will investigate in our other video. But what we find with Travis Hunter is just general athletic awareness. And it's what leads to him just going and making plays. Now, I understand as they about to give us an ad, because I don't pay for YouTube, the premium, right? So I apologize for that as we get ourselves back going here. But this is like a general athleticism, but because of how much exposure and experience he has in different, varying, but also complex and challenging movement problems, maybe not all that challenging for him actually, he's able to make these types of acrobatic, uh, you know, where he's contorting his body, where he's moving in between three defenders, still able to track the ball, still able to catch the specifying information or connect to it. I mean, you even just look at this, Shedeur Sanders just throwing the ball up and just saying, go get it, my guy. And that's exactly what Travis Hunter does. He doesn't just do it occasionally or in quick spurts and highlights. He does it consistently. Yeah, we might have a 10-minute video here, and what we might think, okay, well, these are the highlights. But of course, when you watch him play in and play out, this is exactly what we see from him. I got myself a little bit too far behind, but we can watch it over again, right? Especially when we see it in slow motion. And then we think about that knack for making plays that other people can't. It isn't just when a ball's in the air and he's got to go nab it out of the air. He's got to go snatch it. But look at here, overtime, Colorado Baylor, early in the season, sure. But overtime here with Colorado up, let's think about what this equates to. He's about to ice this game simply because of that sensitivity to the ball. We talk about the ball often being highly specifying. With Travis Hunter, he's about as attracted to the ball as one can get. And I think that comes from this wide, varied exposure. As I always say, abundance precedes adaptability. So that exposure to diverse movement problems channels that adaptability or that dexterity to be able to solve any emerging movement problem. And that emerging movement problem here, himself versus a running back who's about to enter the end zone, it's him or me, is what Travis Hunter says. But instead, it's not about just going for the guy, not tackling him to the ground or trying to keep him out of the end zone. He's going to go make a play on the ball, end the game, walk-off winner, a yard, half a yard before the guy gets pay dirt ties the game up or gives Baylor the chance for the tie. Like you think about these types of things as we see it over and over again. That abundance preceding adaptability shows and shines through. And it's why I believe that he is obviously not only deserving of this Heisman candidacy talk and probably ultimately going to win the Heisman, and rightfully so, but what we see is him being able to have the capabilities of playing either position in the National Football League. And like I mentioned earlier, with Dion, I'm being very, very surprised. And there we see some of the authenticity, right? And I don't want to miss some of these nuances here that we see with his creativity. That authenticity begins to shine just like we saw from Prime, right? Just so like we saw from Prime Time, doing his thing, doing his dance, knowing he's the guy, knowing he's the man, right? That's what we see from Travis Hunter, and rightfully so. I want to pause here because I want to think about something. If you think about, him redefining what we thought was possible at a college football Saturday, and me making the proclamation that I think he will have the capability of doing it if afforded the opportunities on Sunday, I would love to see him returning kicks or punts, like one of the two. And again, I'm surprised that Prime didn't have him doing that here at Colorado, just like solidifying that Heisman candidacy even more to like separate himself from every other performer to have ever done it. Like we think about a Charles Woodson who was a special teams performer returning kicks and punts. I think maybe the last defensive player to have ever won the Heisman. I think it's these types of things, like just find a way to get Travis Hunter on the field and he's going to show you the plays that he can make. You look at that, that is just a different sixth sense. Like what am I talking about? What am I looking at? You see some of those things that he's doing. Like this is play to play, guys. Like think about that. One side of the ball, go make a play, do something awfully sensitive, awfully intentional that other people can't do. Flip the fields, go on the other side, go and attack a ball, stick your foot in the ground, attack it, magnet to the ball, right? That's the calling card of who Travis Hunter is and what will allow him to do some of these things no matter the level. It's really not about repeatability of movement strategies. It's not about technique. We see it from Travis Hunter. It's about the abundance that precedes the adaptability that flows into it. And then you see him, it's not being cocky if you know that it's true, right? You see this authenticity show and shine over and over and over again. So no matter where he is on the field, no matter what he's being asked to do, the playmaker mode is always in full effect. Talk about being a magnet. Like sometimes being in the right place at the right time. Like we think about like an Ed Reed. We think about a guy like an Antoine Winfield Jr. right now, maybe a Deron Bland, like these types of guys that just have an attraction to the ball. It sounds weird. There's a magnetism there to the ball in making plays, just happening to be in the right place at the right time because of your overall playmaking capabilities and abilities, even when everyone is trying to keep the ball out of your area if you're on defense. Now, people have talked a lot, even though I have already made the claim in this video that I believe he should be playing both ways in the NFL. So whatever GM, gosh, here we got another ad. Whatever GM and whatever head coach ends up selecting Travis Hunter, I implore you to give him the opportunity to see time on both sides. Not necessarily doing it full time because 116 snaps, if that's taking place in the NFL, is a different animal in and of itself, right? Like there's a different intensity that comes with that, a different complexity of problem that comes with that as well. But he's shown that he has the endurance. He shows that he has the ability to continue to solve problems late in games and across situations across the season. Not saying he's got to do it at a full-time basis. But what I am hoping is that somebody gives them the capability of just going out and doing this. I mean, talk about a punt return type of scenario and situation. Yeah, it's in the red zone. Yeah, he got a ball on a reverse or end around, but like it's pretty similar to that, which what happens, is similar types of slices. But when we talk about what is he forecast as, right? And when somebody, many experts, somebody being a laundry list of experts, can't actually tell you which position he forecasts better at, or there isn't a hard set answer, that begins to tell us our answer as to where he should be placed on the field and what he should be afforded the opportunity to do. I was hoping to be able to see that play over again here. As again, I normally talk about dexterity and movement skill being a highly specific thing where we connect to specifying information about that's informing us about our possibilities and opportunities to move, our affordances, right? What we see from Travis Hunter is yes, there is a specificity to his movement skill. There's also a generality, a generalization to it. There's just this playmaking that I talked about earlier, where he could be playing basketball or lacrosse or handball or something, and we actually see him have these more general movement skills. But I think it's in the qualities or the characteristics that set the tone for that. The qualities and characteristics being the way that he just goes with the flow, the way that he just trusts that he can find any strategy and any solution. It's a rarefied air, right? Like there's when talent and meets nurturing, or when when the nature meets the nurture, if you will. This is what we see kind of come to be. I'm not proclaiming that he hasn't done very specific work. I know without a shadow of a doubt he has, and it shows in his sensitivity to specifying information at times. But then when you're so accustomed to facing any emerging problem because you're flip-flopping, you're changing roles, you're changing positions, it's a different animal, ladies and gentlemen. And he deserved every right to be putting off that Heisman across the course of the season in that Heisman pose, because he was essentially manifesting it, attracting it, but it's not like his play. Like you see, he's never in that one way of doing or being. If we talk about Bruce Lee, to use no way as the way, Travis Hunter is that guy. Not using any way, not locked into any way of doing or being, but staying open to doing it in any way, right? And as we just kind of like look and marvel as this film, we're getting Oklahoma State game, so the last second to last game I think of the season, maybe the last, yeah, it was the last for Colorado. We see him doing it across the field. Okay, that is the one thing that we find over and over. Like we see this, we watch this, we see him set guys up because he's just out there, just going in his own, beating to the beat of his own drum. And it's why we see him being this playful, this creative, this free flowing type of nature of way or being. Like he knows he doesn't have to be locked in to any given way. And it's why we see him do these awfully attuned and sensitive things. Like I talked before about attunement, specificity, or specifying information, right? But watch him through some of these plays. Like that in and of itself is just get a guy turned around, move him around, look to create, look to adapt, and just know that you can find your way into a movement strategy and a solution that that matches the problem. Like this is the definition of the it factor. Like look at that. Making a guy miss when he's turning around uh, and all you're really trying to do is get the space, but it's in the relationship between himself, the space, and the opponent. The bracketed coverage, the guy behind him, the guy in front of him who turns his chest to him, and then he can move him around. He can put him on a string there. And sometimes you will see him hit the deck in those types of cases because he's just so fixated and focused, or like in this play, for example, where he might lack that attunement, he circles right back into it. And I think this might be the last play of his, coming up here is the last play of his college football season, as I doubt that he plays in the bowl game, right? And there's going to be some criticism, I'm sure, around that and about that as I replay or rewind a little bit here, talking about magnetism to the ball, snatching a ball, high pointing a ball over the top of somebody else's head, pulling it back to you. I mean, this is just like I was mentioning earlier, the it factor, the playmaker personified. Here would be the play that I was referring to last play. Yeah, it's 45 nothing. Yeah, it's against Oklahoma State. Yeah, they're probably trying to pad some things in order to make sure that the world knows who Travis Hunter is, as if people don't know in the football world already. But guys, gals, we're talking about something different. We're talking about a one of one in college football. Whether we look at Coach Prime, whether we look at Charles Woodson, all the other players to have played the game before, this is a one of one type of movement skill. And it's why I believe that obviously we will likely see Travis Hunter hoisting the Heisman Trophy and doing that pose on stage come this Saturday. And it will be for good reason because he's obviously ultimately deserving of it. I know that we were just kind of talking and riffing over that, which what we were seeing, not breaking down things in the typical fashion that we would. But I think what you find just in that 10 plus minute highlight video is exactly why Travis Hunter will be successful in the National Football League. Whether he's expected to be on offense or be on defense, or, and I hope it's an and or type of thing, I hope it's an and thing, that some coach sees the vision. Some coach does go through this with a fine tooth comb and see the things that he can even become more skillful at each one of those respective positions and give him the opportunity to show that he can flourish on Sundays, just like he did on Saturdays. Travis Hunter, one of one, as I mentioned, the it factor, the playmaker and epitome of it, abundance, authenticity, and adaptability. That's what we see as the calling card of Travis Hunter. And it probably is what helps him hopefully hoisting, at least from his perspective, that Heisman Trophy come Saturday. This is Travis Hunter and who he is and what he does. But let's give credit where credit's due to Ashton Jeanty. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Go watch the other video for week 14 of the 2024 National Football League season in my movement play of the week to see what Ashton Jeanty is up to see what makes him do what he does, what underpins his movement skill, and what puts him in this same conversation with Travis Hunter. Go watch the Ashton Jeanty video as well.